Before we go ahead and begin today's episode, we do have a sponsor for today's episode, and today's sponsor is Kraken Notify. Kraken Notify are dedicated to being the true all-in-one group, and their features back up that statement that you guys can view on the screen. So it's pretty obvious that they have two types of memberships here that you can see on screen. One at $25 a month and their premium membership at $40 a month. They have a ton of features on screen, but I'm going to go ahead and highlight a few here. You have tools such as a web Twitter monitor, a custom inventory tracker, and a Discord scripts application, as well as everything else on screen. So this is pretty useful if you're a reseller and a botter. You can utilize all these features, and the best part, you can check them out for absolutely free with their free trial that they provided to us for the viewers of TheBotTalk. So go ahead and make sure your Discord is logged into your browser, then go ahead and check out the links down below. You can go ahead and check out their free trial, and if you wish to stay afterwards, then you can. I also highly recommend you check out their social media platforms that will be linked down. Hello everyone, welcome back to TheBotTalk. In today's episode we are Swifty from Qasim Solutions. This is going to be a good episode. Let's go ahead and jump straight into it. The first question I want to go ahead and ask Swifty: how do you discover the botting community?
I actually discovered the botting community when I was actually working in Starbucks. I think it was 2 years ago when like my parents told me to go find a job, and then like basically they told me to live on my own. And then so when I was actually in Starbucks, I was working around 40 hours a week, and then I was kind of told by my parents that, you know, you're not going to get any kind of funding whatsoever. So I have to like kind of fund my rental. I have to kind of take care of myself overall. So I had to kind of look elsewhere for kind of, you know, secondary income. So then I kind of started looking into reselling because I was searching online, and then somewhere online it told me that you could resell clothing. And then I just all of a sudden, long story short, like many other people, they started going manual trying to cop clothing, and I actually went for Palace. It was this drop that had this Palace ripped T-shirt. And now it's going for like $120. Basically, I kind of ditched work on that day because I was like making a lot of drinks for customers, and then I sat in the bathroom for like an hour waiting in the queue. And basically, like literally, that was the entire story. I was just sitting in the bathroom for the entire hour, and then I ended up not copying a single shirt. So I think to me, it was like that excitement and that nervousness that kind of brought me into this feeling like, you know, I have to kind of get that satisfaction, that kind of feeling that you can cop something limited. So for me, I kind of just went onto YouTube, started to search how to cop Palace and everything. And I remember seeing Boy Nova. I think his video popped up first, and I started watching all of his videos. And obviously because there was some kind of advertisement and sponsorship, that brought me into the sneaker community, which goddamn, the community is something else.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I think the community, it's a wide opening kind of experience to me. But I believe when I first joined my first couple of groups, I actually forgot what it was, but I was just kind of following what everyone was trying to do, just kind of joining giveaways, trying to be that lucky guy. And that's kind of how I discovered the botting community, like basically just through, you know, hoping to resell and then realizing that there were so many different bots, different groups that provide information. And there were a couple of like free groups that I joined in. I was like, okay, you know what? Seems like it was something that I really wanted to do because I see so many people cooking and I wanted to be part of that. So yeah, that's kind of how I discovered this community, and I actually love it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this community does have some positive and negatives that I'm sure we're going to definitely dive into. But one element of your answer that I do want to speak about before we move on to the rest of the questions and obviously open up the discussion. You spoke about how 2 years ago, your parents essentially said to you that you need to fund yourself and that you're basically on your own. Now, this is, I wouldn't say controversial, but people have a very diverse opinions on it because of the fact that people are raised in different households. There's people that are in their mid-20s that are still with their parents. Their parents don't make them pay rent. The parents wash their clothes. The parents pay for food, and they don't see a problem with it. But there's people like yourself that was put in these situations where you have to fund yourself. And I think I do want to dive into that, 'cause it is pretty interesting. Because in this community, there is the general stigma that a lot of these kids, or people I should say, that do bot are just rich kids that are funded from their parents. Obviously, there is scenarios where the people are built up from the bottom. I've had plenty of people on this podcast that came from nothing, quite frankly, in their words. And one thing I do want to tap into, so when your parents essentially said to you that you need to fund yourself, did they kick you out of your family home, or were you already living by yourself? How did that situation kind of go down, if you're comfortable about talking about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an amazing question. When I was, so I was born in upstate New York. My parents are actually really, really strict about work, but I honestly, in many situations, I take it by heart. I mean, the more that I grew older, the more I realized, how they were honestly just trying to benefit me in certain ways. And so basically, I've been kind of traveling since when I was in lower school. My parents kind of just told me that, they brought me to Beijing for studying, to Hong Kong to study, as well as in Taiwan to study. So I kind of studied in many places, all funded by my dad especially. And so for me to have the privilege to fly to the States and study in Boston, I think starting at that point, they were pretty critical about me being self-sufficient, basically. And I think a lot of the times when I'm in Koi talking to a lot of the users, a lot of the members that are with us, they have many of these situations where they ask me this kind of question. And I always kind of tell them that, sometimes when you're, at a certain age, yeah, definitely, like, there are certain things that you just don't see it coming. But to me, when I was in this situation, I take it by heart. And I felt like once I got into college, it's time for me to kind of take that initiative and be able to take care of myself. And so I think by the end of my first year in college, they told me basically that I just have to kind of go find a job, or else you're not coming back. And so the only way that I could basically stay in the States is to make sure that I find a job. So overall, I think me and my parents, we always kind of had a great connection. We always cared about each other, and I think this was kind of the breaking point for me, at least. I think without this kind of opportunity, I would never be in this situation where I would tell myself, I want to figure out something that I want to work on, or I want to make sure that I can get through this particular time period. And it's not even the pandemic. It was actually just a regular summer that I just, had to figure out my own life, essentially. So I think that's just something that it's a lesson. It's also a big turning point in my life. So yeah.
That is very interesting. I'm very glad that obviously you took that chance. Your parents put you in that position and it all led to here. But it doesn't always end up like that. There's probably a scenario that you kept working at Starbucks. Maybe you had to pick up a second job to pay with bills. If you didn't go down the route of starting Kwai and entering this community, let's say theoretically speaking, you just stick at Starbucks, would you still have the same outlook in the terms that you'd be grateful for your parents pushing you to be independent, or would your feelings about the situation be different?
No, that's an awesome question. Basically, I think, let's say, like in your scenario, I'm sorry, in that scenario, if that would have happened to me in the situation where I didn't start Koi, or I didn't start anything regarding just kind of being self-sufficient. I think it would be really, really tough for me to come to this point of day. It's really hard to actually visualize myself in that situation. But putting my past self when I was in high school, I believe I was kind of spoiled. I really enjoyed doing track stuff, doing just a lot of athletics. But a lot of the times I take things for granted, and I think going to college is kind of that mindset. That, I mean, college was kind of the change that kicked in for me. But I think if I were to just kind of stick with Starbucks, I think going back to college, I would literally just be focusing on biochemistry, laboratory work, continuing with laboratory work. Um, that's still my major, and I'm still pursuing that. So um, basically, I'm kind of juggling between biochemistry, having biochemistry as what I'm learning, as well as Koi as a passion on what I love to do, and being with people and stuff like that. Yeah.
Definitely, that is a very interesting story. It isn't the typical story that you hear. It's very unique, and that's why I wanted to dive into it. But switching back towards your origin story in the community, you said that you'd spend time being a manual botter. You eventually came to the problem that obviously you had to resort to bots because you were spending an hour in the restroom going for these releases and just not hitting, which is pretty typical. Most people go down that path. I went down that path. Pretty much everyone I know that got into this community went down that path. So when you got into the community, understood how the community works at the time, you've got the proxy companies, the botting companies, the cut groups. What were some of the first companies in the community you were involved with?
Absolutely. I think the first couple of communities that I've got myself into was mainly Notify, and I think it was Pulse Notify. I think it was these two groups. The crazy part about how I got into it is because I was actually very tight on budget. Like previously from the story that I was telling you about. Like when I first saw this community, and after getting into college the second year, me and my friends, we started looking into these groups, and then we were evaluating, which one's the best. And like many other people actually rely on what group buys they have. A lot of people who are young. I mean, just people in general, I guess, when they see these groups having such amazing group buys, the first thing that came up to my mind, at least, I was just like, God damn, I gotta go into it. And so me and my friends, I think we put in quite a lot of money into a couple of groups, just to kind of be in there, look into the information. But I think that's how we kind of got started with these kind of groups. And then the first bot that we actually had was, I think it was called .bot. Wait, .aio. Yeah, .aio.
Yeah.
That was one of the bots that I actually obtained for retail, and I think that's when I first started kind of going for Supreme drops, and it didn't really go that well for me. But I think overall it was kind of the first experience of me encountering not only just owning these groups and being in these communities, but also kind of exposing myself with many different opportunities, especially when I first talked to Michael from Notify. I think he's a very inspiring person. I talked to him, and he was very kind to me and kind of helping me out, and as well as Shaw from Shaw Solutions. Both of them kind of just were giving me a little bit of tips here and there. But they were all very patient with me, because I had absolutely no idea how to bot, how to get proxies, what proxies were good. I even used a script to buy $700 worth of proxies my first time. So I'm not going to talk about that. That's I didn't get a refund for that. But yeah, that was a mistake. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much one of the first botting companies and group companies that I got involved with. And from there, that's just kind of where I started, being kind of in the center of the botting community. So yeah.
Interesting. It's a very interesting start. My start was like very different, and I know a lot of people just get into it different ways. And it's interesting because, no matter which way you kind of come in from, we all kind of head towards the same center point. And I'd say we're at a similar center point. We're in the community, we're kind of known. We have companies that we've built up from nothing. Literally, you were uneducated about the community. I like to say I was uneducated. Even Michael, the person you referenced in the backstory, he was unexperienced at one point. They build these big communities and companies in the community. So it's really, really awesome to see. And I think it's pretty unique because, like, you think about modern day business owners that are like are really successful now. It takes them decades to go ahead and build an empire. But you look at people in the community, they've been here for a year, 2 years in your case. I think it's nearly 3 years for me now. And you manage to just gain reputation through just being good people and then obviously building good products, and that reflects well onto the customers.
A lot of these communities, a lot of people that I met, definitely like what you said earlier, they come from different backgrounds. They've encountered many, many different communities. A lot of us have encountered people who, are really, really nice to them because, I believe a lot of these owners that I've encountered in the very beginning, they were awesome to us. They were very passionate about what they do, and that's kind of what I was learning from in a business standpoint. That you have to kind of deliver that to from a business standpoint. You kind of need to deliver that to your customers to make sure that your customers are receiving the best customer experience. So that's definitely something that I've learned so much from Michael and Shaw. And I remember very, very clearly when I was DMing Shaw the first time, he basically told me that I remember I asked him if what is the best way to start a company in this community. And I remember he told me not really anything about starting a company, but more about how to approach people, how to be approachable in this community, basically. And so I kind of took that by heart, and that's kind of where I kicked off after kind of taking a lot of these advice from these owners.
Definitely, yeah. I think taking advice from owners is very beneficial, just because of the fact that they've kind of been through the community, they know the current standpoint of the community, they know how to navigate it. Like, navigating by yourself in the beginning is definitely something that is difficult. I mean, me personally, I latched myself onto a few reputable people and I kind of bit myself up from there. But in my case, it's kind of different. Like, I got to speak to these people at length, like we're doing right now, for an hour, develop an episode, promote their company, go through this entire thing. So it was kind of different. But yeah, I think getting mentors and overall just people that can back you up in this community is beneficial. Shah is definitely a very good person, and he's a very good person to help you navigate through this community as well, because he's been through like a lot. Like, obviously, he's got a ton of hate before, he's got a ton of love before. He's a good guy, like very good guy, very nice guy from when I've spoke to him. But yeah, sure. I definitely think it's a great idea to latch on to people that are reputable. There is an argument in here that the higher up people just don't respond to people that are asking for advice, and that is understandable. Like, me and you both know, or anyone that's listening to this that runs a company, DMs get flooded, Twitter DMs get flooded. You know, it's often hard to respond to people's genuine questions, even though we want to respond to them in the nicest way. But you know, it is always worth just shooting in the shot, and if they respond and you can get some knowledge from them, then that's perfect, and that's what happened in your case.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, definitely for everybody who's listening to this, like, I believe me and you, we both kind of receive more than 100 DMs per day. And for me, because I live 13 hours ahead from the US, I basically, you know, my work schedule is pretty messed up. I work literally from, you know, I work US time basically, and I sleep during the day. And I try to make sure that all of my DMs are received. If I don't respond, that actually, you know, like many other owners, it essentially just means that we haven't read it yet. And definitely, like, at least for me, I always try to get back to everybody, you know, every single day. And that's kind of my daily routine. I take like 1 or 2 hours just to make sure that everyone gets a response from me at least. You know, so it's definitely, it's enjoyable to be able to communicate with everybody who wants to learn, who wants to you know, to basically start a business or want to learn something. That's just something that, you know, I appreciate a lot, because that has been that was me, and I want people to receive the same kind of help that they need to get started, you know. So that's pretty much like kind of how that was kind of my my thought about this situation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, well, like just to reiterate my point I made before, mentors are definitely a good thing. I highly recommend them. I've got a few mentors outside the community, inside the community. It's definitely very beneficial. Don't always act like you're a lone wolf. More than likely, the people right at the top had help. You can't really do this alone. You really need just people's advice, people's support, stuff like that. It's very beneficial. It's not making you weak. Like, there's so many stigmas with getting help from people these days that it kind of annoys me when people reject it, even though it's beneficial. Not coming from me, but I see people do it, and it's just like, if you tapped into this resource, you'd be so much better off. But going back to something I did want to jump into, let's speak about the beginnings of Quiet Solutions. So, what made you want to actually start Quiet Solutions?
That's an awesome question. I think the reason why I started Koi was actually because I was actually in this community, obviously, for quite some time. The one thing that I always had an issue with was, you know, having such a big renewal fee every single month. I think a lot of people could definitely relate to this, in a sense that, let's say if you're around 16 or 17 years old, or even, you know, just going off to college, a lot of people join this community, you know, just kind of paying off the renewal, knowing that, you know, at least they could join in for, you know, potential chance for a group buy, or just enjoying the community as a whole. I love to be in that situation too, but during that time, I didn't really see myself being able to pay the next month. That was kind of me a lot of the times. And so for me, I think when I first started, I actually, Koi was actually stemmed from me reaching out to this first, one of the first scripts called Unknown Scripts. I don't know if you remember them.
Yeah.
And so I basically reached out to them, and I was just like, so they had some complications with developing, and I think developing kind of halted. And so I kind of reached out and I said, I'm starting something, and I want to bring hope to these users who are literally in the chat complaining every day. And so for me, I kind of felt bad. I felt like I need to be in their shoes. I need to kind of step in, because, you know, as a user, as someone who really enjoyed being in the community, I wanted to make a difference. And that's, for me, that's kind of like where I decided to start Koi. And to be honest, Koi was literally just, you know, me thinking about, already thinking about a lot of ideas, having a bot, having an extension, having tools, like literally having everything that you could have to help you resell. That's the core of Koi. But obviously the logo just literally came from me thinking about the bot's loading screen, which is kind of weird, but it would be really cool if a fish is swimming in a circle. That was kind of my thought. But yeah, I think Koi basically started off with just an extension, and then a lot of the people who I brought over was like, oh, so you're just going to sell this the exact same thing as unknown scripts then? And to me, I kept telling them, no, I'm going to actually add more stuff. So I never went paid with the stuff that we provided. So we started off with an extension, and then they were just like, so we made a tool, and they asked me if I wanted to separate the tool and the extension. And so when I heard that, I was just like, why can't I put them, in the same package? Having an extension, having tools, and also having the information that you need for every single drop. And during that time, obviously, is for bot restocks. And then sooner or later, this kind of thought expanded way more into, just having a boundless idea where you could literally have every single product that you could think of in a single package that can aid you in reselling. That was essentially what I was trying to break through for Koi. Koi is essentially just an all-in-one package that allows people to use, from knowing the information to having the product, and to also making sure that they know what they can invest in or also continue to make money with. So yeah, that's kind of how I started Koi, and like still is till today. We're still growing. Like Koi is, because it's so boundless, that we're able to improve every single day, and there's so many more products that we're able to introduce to Koi users with just one single subscriptional cost.
Yeah, definitely. I think why Koi caught my attention is because of the things that you offer, and it is unique. You do offer like an all-in-one package, and that's something you reference in your answer. And I do believe that it is a very, very good place to be, especially if you're new, and especially if you want to cut down on costs. You have a lot of the information in there that you would get across a few groups, and I personally feel like it's a good idea to go ahead and join Koi. For the viewers, you will have an opportunity for that later in the episode, but I do believe it is a good place to be. Obviously, I joined a few weeks back when we were doing some business stuff, and I was looking around, like, users seem pretty satisfied. Its aftermarket value is pretty high at the moment, and overall it's a very, very good place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think to add on to your point, I think Koi right now, especially, we literally have 6 developers on our team. So the entire team is really, really driven to provide for all of our users. And I think the one big thing about Koi is we essentially attempt to make sure that we have one of the best and most unique information that we can provide for users. And obviously we tackled Pokemon first, and me and my team basically dove into Pokemon like deeply, regarding information, where to cop, how to cop, what to look out for. So definitely, like, we look up to all of these groups that provide such amazing information, and I think, honestly speaking, it's because of these groups that we are able to grow every single day. And I think one kind of PSA for a lot of people is that essentially when you're seeing other people grow, when you're seeing other people cook, it's actually an amazing feeling. It's an amazing thing to see, because when you see them cook, it actually drives you to work harder, and you want to take it positively. I think some people in the community definitely take it negatively, and kind of some people are salty about it, but I think personally, I take it in a very positive way, that when I see groups, when I see bots, because we essentially we have our own bot that our team is already testing, but we also have information that is comparable, on par with like Garrett FNF, with Pokemart. We definitely have a lot of information for users, and I feel like whenever I see other groups have the same amount of success with us, and it drives us to even work even harder to make sure that we are on top, in a positive way. So yeah,
definitely it is the right mindset to have when it comes to running a business. With the layout and the other stuff I'm involved with, it's just a constant evolving to ensure that you're ahead of your competitors, maybe on par with them sometimes. And especially in this community, like, there's tons of businesses. Businesses are opening up every single day and they close down every single day. So it's very interesting to navigate consumers' demands and consumers' expectations. Like, if you offered what you offer at Acquire Solutions 2 years ago, you'd be seen as one of the best groups in the community, purely because of the fact that consumer expectations weren't this high. You weren't joining a group and getting an extension. You weren't joining a group and getting a bot. Restock World did change that. They did start offering in that, and then obviously that shifted the expectations. All groups started implementing that. So it makes me very interested in what the future is going to hold. Are we going to get to a point where you literally join a group and there's an AIO bot ready to go, like an actual application ready to go, that pretty much every group has to have to even be in the market? It's going to be interesting, and I feel like the boundaries to entry for groups are going to keep getting higher. But I definitely think Acquire Solutions is in a very good position for that.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's an amazing point that you brought up. I think in the very beginning when Koi came out, I actually received a lot of hate. I received a lot of messages. They were asking me, people telling me, yo, you're bricking my market. But in a marketing perspective, you're trying to make sure that you're improving this community day by day. I'm not, in any way, at least in my perspective, I'm not trying to ruin anyone's business. Essentially, I'm just trying to make sure that this community has some place that they could rely on and say, yeah, I have everything in this package. Like, what else do I need? And to me, that's something, like you said, in the future, like maybe one or 2 months later, there's going to be some other group that kind of follows this general trend, and maybe this will be the new norm. Like maybe Notify will have their own bot. I do know, I think Paradox, they have their own bot. And I think the one reason why Koi, people would put Koi with a lot of other companies is they don't really see that our extension is we're trying to work up to the point, looking up to people like Zenny, like Flow, like one of the best extensions basically. And we want to make sure that our extensions are on top, our AIO is on top, and our tools is to make sure that every single user essentially gets what they need. Like our tools that are coming out, our V2 of our tools that are coming out, I think, at least in this month or next month, just a lot of products that we make sure that users need or users can use for these reselling purposes.
Yeah, definitely. The evolving products in business is definitely needed. I mean, when it comes to competitors, they're going to message all they want. It's laziness. When the market evolves, you evolve with the market. That's just how it is. That's how it's always been. It's like that in every industry, and it'll continue to be like that. You see that on a global scale with many companies. Like, to go off topic for a second, there's a lot of companies in the UK that didn't provide online shopping and purely supported their business on the fact that they have loads of stores scattered across the UK. You can't purchase products online, and when it came to COVID hitting and the pandemic, essentially they had to go into administration because they didn't evolve with the times. Obviously, it is an off-brand example, but it's very similar to this. There will be groups out there that will shut down because of the fact that they're refusing to evolve, even though when they know they should. An extension, pretty standard these days, you should be including it unless you can leverage some type of reputability or clout with your group to the point where members are like, oh, we don't really care about that, we just care about being in the group, and that's fine. You could easily leverage your group with group buys and stuff like that, but the evolving demands is definitely going to be interesting to watch and monitor to see how high they get. But touching on the pandemic, I know with the pandemic, we're approaching 1 year. Next month in March is when globally, that's when everything kicked off, which is crazy because, bro, like 1 year has gone past very quick. But tapping into the pandemic and how it's opened up opportunities, did the pandemic help you in terms of freeing up time for work, or what was the overall effects of the pandemic on you?
That's an awesome question. I think the pandemic, I think when I first moved, I think around March, the pandemic definitely like impacted my schedule a lot. In terms of work, definitely not. But I think, definitely not in the beginning. But when I first flew back, there was a lot of things that I wasn't expecting, including my financial status in the US because I flew back to Taiwan, as well as, you know, work and classes. I basically have to shift to what I am right now, which is like literally around 7 a.m. right now, but this is kind of my daily routine that I stay up at night to work on Koi, as well as also basically going into classes. But I think in terms of the pandemic, the biggest impact that it really had on me was my financial status. Basically, when I started Koi, I had no money. Koi was literally just an idea that I really couldn't do much about unless I had some kind of funding. So for me, I think when the pandemic kind of came on us and we were literally just kind of staying at home every single day, I actually took the initiative and the opportunity to talk to a lot of different designers, talk to a lot of different developers, and a lot of them agreed to work with me because, you know, in terms of communicating with them, I try to make sure that I have a firm business plan about Koi and how it could potentially succeed, and I want them in. So I took basically all of my the past summer, basically to ensure that our use, like from literally $0, to make sure that we have a branding, we have someone who can work on our website, which is, I think our website currently is pretty outdated, but basically website was done just based off of kind of connecting with the person. I think the branding was also done basing off of connecting with the person, as well as our first extension. So for me, it was a lot of negotiating and also making sure that person could trust me, you know, because anytime the person could just say no, you know, they could just say no anytime, and I could just be stuck here waiting for another day to come. And that's when I think when school started around July, I told my school I took a really big risk, and I told my school that I'm able to pay my tuition, and I told them that I could take out my scholarship and I'll pay my tuition. So they actually allowed me to withdraw. I think around, you know, I think not a really big. I mean, sorry, it is a pretty big amount during that time actually. I think it was around $5,000 to begin with. And I used that amount to continuously fund. I worked with John Soul, the designer. He's an amazing guy. I worked with, I think, a couple of logo designers. I spent the $5,000 just went right off the bat in 1 month in terms of development. So our Koi tools was made, and our Koi extension was made with just that 1 month. And then there comes the next month around August where, damn, I don't have any more money. And the people, although they're so passionate about Koi, they still want to make sure that, because everyone's in the pandemic, I have to make sure that people are well taken care of. And I knew that I can't, continue to make people feel like, I'm just kind of, negotiating with how I talk to them and making sure that, Koi will succeed. Verbally, definitely that could work, but in the long run, we need to make sure that, people are well taken care of. And so I went from 5K that I initially borrowed from my school to I borrowed around 15K. So I essentially borrowed 20K in total from my school. So you could kind of imagine me being in the negative 20K in debt. And so for me, I took, August to September and then all the way till December to kind of fund our whole team, put everything that I got to our team while still, attending college, as well as making sure that Koi would work. And so originally Koi was about to launch around October with just an extension. And I just continued, and I told myself, if we have this 15K, we can make something work. And so Koi went from an extension to tools to having a CLI AIO bot in the very beginning, but a lot of people didn't want CLI. So we had to kind of change it up. And so that's why we're transitioning right now. And just basically a lot of products and information that, you can basically cook every single day in Koi, and people probably would realize that you have so many opportunities to cook. And so basically my mindset was to make sure that at least in this business, that it's really hard to say no. Like after the 20K, like that's basically how I came about Koi, is that you basically have this whole package. And I literally spent around every single day, actually, just with all of my users, all of the people that I worked with, and also just people who've been in Koi and have been in Koi the entire time. I literally still know everybody who are still in our server. I think many of them I could definitely call as a friend, because they're such an amazing people. They give us so much feedback, and that's how we grow as a team, from user feedback. And so at that point, when Koi launched, I also decided that because everyone's in such a rough situation, I do feel like there's a lot of people who can't afford being in Koi. So initially Koi was, I thought, to be 250, just like, essentially, if you could think about it, having bot restock tools, having web monitors and monitors, having information like a cook group, that could go up to like $400 or $500 easily. And so for me, I kind of just told myself that because everyone, has been such an amazing group of beta testers, and so I decided to take literally $100 off and say it's going to be $130 for beta users. And obviously it was from $150 to $130 because I also included $20 for them to use Scout app, which is an amazing app, to kind of budget out and make sure that at least for the next 3 months for them in Koi, they can make a good amount of money and make sure that they have a good budgeting plan for the next 3 months. So that's kind of how the pandemic, drove me to have all of this free time and effort to make sure that Koi is at this position today, and it still is, actually. So yeah.
That's crazy, man. I mean, it is an insane story, and I relate to certain aspects of it. A few things that I do want to pick out. Let me just recap some things that we did mention in this episode. So I set the scene. and then I'll answer this question. So we keep this in mind that your parents put you in a position where they said you're financially by yourself. You have to do everything by yourself now. In your opinion, it was beneficial, which is completely fine. So you do that, you pick up the Starbucks job, you borrow money from your school, you borrow up to $20,000, which isn't something to pass by. Like $20,000 in debt is a lot of debt.
Mm-hmm.
You have
That's
that,
right.
you have a very limited amount of income, and you invest it all into a product that you believed in. Was there any sense of like fear, or what is your attitude when it comes towards risk? Keeping in mind your situation at the time, what was your attitude to risk at that time?
That's an awesome question. Like, honestly, I think, to be honest, I think when I was here in Taiwan, obviously I'm just living with my parents. Every single day they see me, 3 a.m., 4 a.m., being online, being in this workroom that we set up. And I think the biggest fear that I obviously had was, what if no one wanted my product, right? I think a lot of people, when they launch, some people are definitely really, really confident about it because, maybe some people will look into the resale market and say, yeah, I think my product will definitely do well. But for me, I think the biggest part about Koi that I was really, really nervous about was knowing that I think, what if one day I can't pay this, 20K back? And what if one day people tell me that they don't like Koi? And so for me, during the 4 months of beta in Koi, any single user who had a beta key, like actually any single user who wanted to leave, I would DM them and ask them how I can improve, and they will come back. Like, it was just something that really, really impacted me a lot. Like, I think the first day when we first launched, and a lot of people were joining in for free, which is amazing. Seeing a lot of people join us, and obviously, I see like 1 or 2 people kind of hop out of the server, and I would just DM them and say, what's up? Like how can I improve? How can I make your experience in Koi better? And I think that was kind of the awesome feeling that when you actually receive and you kind of bring that person back, knowing that you can make that person have a better experience in Koi or just in your business, then the overall aspect of your business can definitely be improved, and make sure that you're kind of filling in the gaps and making sure that the entire business has less errors. And I think for me, that was what I was driving to do every single day, just making sure that there was no errors in Koi, whether it is a community to people, whether it is a bot to people, whether it is any kind of product that they're thinking of about Koi. And so definitely, I feel like there were many major factors for me, such as my financial status of having 20K in debt, as well as, just knowing that there were many people that I actually learned to leave those kind of communities with, when people are, just kind of talking about your company, saying stuff about your company. And obviously they're good and they're bad. But to me, I felt like it's one way for me to improve. Essentially, I wanted to continuously communicate with people, and that's why I have such a great experience hanging out with everybody who have been in beta in Koi, because they are the base, they are the foundation, and the reason why Koi is such an amazing place right now, at least to many people. Obviously, we still have so much room to improve, but that's the reason why Koi is so amazing to me, because there is a room to improve, that we're able to grow as a community and grow our products. So yeah, I think to kind of wrap up on this topic, obviously, I think Definitely, I had so much pressure, but I think it's all about, if you're, it doesn't just apply to me, but anybody who's kind of going through such a tough time, that you will always have something exciting the next day, and you just gotta keep grinding, because you never know what's gonna happen. Like, if it's bad, you just continue to work hard. Like, giving up is just kind of making sure that you don't have the next day to look up to. You want to make sure that you always have essentially some kind of drive to know that if you're sticking with this and you love what you do, you just got to pursue it. And that's kind of my mentality every single day. Staying up till like 8 a.m., 9 a.m. in the morning, hanging out with people in voice call. And that's just something about Koi that I felt like, I really, really enjoyed. And that really took off that stress from me, being able to talk to 40, 50 users in a VC, which is kind of amazing to me, at least. And hearing what they have to say, what we should improve, and also giving them my feedback about everything that they asked, is something that I really, really cherish. And so that to me is, when they give me a feedback, I feel way more relieved about, anything else, such as my financial situation or anything. These people mean a lot to me. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Obviously, so.
Yeah, definitely. It's a very, very detailed answer, and I didn't want to interrupt you because you obviously were going through a variety of elements there. But it is pretty evident that you do care about the user base, and that's part of why it's so successful. You can pretty much see when business owners don't care about the user base, they don't really make changes, they don't really evolve, and they stay stagnant. But obviously, Quiet Solutions has been evolving for quite a while here. But one thing I just want to touch upon before we go ahead and wrap up today's episode and move on to the special event for this episode. So, Quiet Solutions, you took out the 20k loan, you fuel the business, it's successful, everything's going good, your dream product, so to speak, is being created and evolved. But when it got to its peak, or at the point it is right now, how has Quiet Solutions, being where it is right now, affected you positively and also negatively?
I think for this question, it definitely, I think Koi definitely has a huge impact on my life, mostly positive, mainly because I really, really, I was able to actually make sure that I'm paying, monthly to my school, because they're allowing me to pay monthly. But I think Koi definitely taught me a lot of things besides a business, but more of, just, communicating with people, engaging with people, and also, figuring out this community as a whole. And I think the community has shown me a lot about, how much of a hustler many people are. And I think that's an amazing thing to see. I think when starting Koi, me trying to learn from other people, and now some people coming to ask questions, and also asking if, we have an open position. I always give them, equal or even double the answer that they need, just to make sure that, they have some kind of head start or anything that they could think of. And I think, to answer your question, obviously, I think Koi impacted my life really, really positively, in the sense that, I'm able to in some ways make sure that my family is well taken care of. Obviously, because of the pandemic, a lot of businesses are not doing well, and especially those physical stores that you were talking about in the very beginning. And I think, to me, being able to, take care of a team of 6 developers, as well as, many supports on our team that make sure that Koi is, amazing community to be in. It's just something that I never really saw, but I absolutely love right now, because I'm able to work with so many amazing people, communicate with, the biggest, and also, essentially the biggest groups in the community that I've never expected to encounter and receive messages from. That was such an amazing feeling that, I felt like I reached such a level that I never expected. And obviously, going back to the 20K that I was talking about, if that never happened, it doesn't change actually about how I feel, and my motivation. The 20K that I took out was actually just kind of, it was a really crazy gamble. I obviously could have taken a better path, but to me, being able to make sure that that is well taken care of, as well as my family, as well as my team, and watching Core grow every single day is something that's really, really impactful to me. But obviously, I think health-wise, I think to many people out there, you just have to make sure that you take care of yourself. I think a lot of people stay up 3-4 a.m. in the morning, especially a lot of owners, because they want to make sure that all of their users are well taken care of. And for me, I think definitely one small negative thing that I always ignore is my health, because there's so many exciting things to come every single day. And I think the crazy part about Koi is, as we pride being one of the biggest groups that provides Pokemon information, me and other supports are always there making sure that people cook. And so, obviously, to a certain extent, to everyone out there, if you miss out, it's not the end of the world for you. I think I've learned that lesson a lot. And I think definitely, like, my health has definitely taken a toll, but every single day when I hop back on, it's like an adrenaline rush. It's just such an amazing feeling hopping on, being able to hop into a conference or meeting room every single day, making sure that our team is, getting the right information, and we're making sure that we improve our guides every single day. It's just part of the routine that, made sure for me that I had something that I can rely on while I'm working in school, as well as, just making sure that Koi as a whole is successful, because it's such a amazing business to run. And so, yeah, that's pretty much it, honestly.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear about the positives, and obviously it's a good sign that you've acknowledged the negatives. I definitely feel like having your mental health in a good state and having your physical health in a good state is two vital elements to business. I paid attention a lot to my mental health and my physical health in 2020. I dropped like 40 pounds, and then I put on like 25 pounds of muscle. And I know tons of people that do this. I know tons of people, business owners, that go through this whole process, because as an entrepreneur, you just don't really look at your health. You kind of look at money making methods, developing products. But it's crazy how much your physical health being in a good state and your mental health being in a good state propels your business ability and
Correct.
your overall creativity. It's crazy. I've never ever experienced it before. It's the most natural way to become a better businessman. And I definitely recommend it to any resellers, any business owners, any students even. Just dedicate time to understanding how your mind works and understanding what your body needs. If you need to go on a cut, you need to burn fat, you need to bulk up, whatever your goals are and whatever your needs are. A schedule is something that definitely does help me, and definitely does help a lot of entrepreneurs. Having a good diet, these very little things will add up, and you'll notice the changes immediately. Within a week, everything just changes. But one thing I did want to bring up just before we go ahead and end this episode, to loop it back right to the beginning. At the beginning, you mentioned that your parents put you in this financial position, and we've referenced it a few times in this episode. After the success of Kawhi Solutions, and right now, you've mentioned that you support your family. What's their overall opinion on your success of Kawhi Solutions now?
Yeah, I think it was a mind-blowing experience to them, at least, that when they initially saw me working on Koi, they were just like, are you sure you're just gonna continue working on this, and just, why don't you just go back to continue focusing on medical school? And to me, I knew that growing Koi is much bigger than just, the monetary side of things, as well as, I feel like if I'm able to grow Koi to an extent, I'm definitely able to support my family in many, many ways. And they never really saw that too. And in some ways, I know, not just me, but a lot of people, when they hear something, that you hear from other people that are kind of negative, you definitely want to prove someone wrong, that you want to make sure that the more they say that, the more you want to strive to succeed in what you do. And I think that's kind of my motivation too, that, whenever I hear, especially from my parents, especially, recently about the businesses and everything, obviously I'm not going to dive in too deep about that, but obviously, when I hear stuff like that, I always would make sure, and I always would hear and say to myself that, one day I'll make sure that I can take care of them, because you never know what's going to happen, but at least you want to make sure that, because of all this time, because of all the 21 years of them taking care of me, that I am able to say to them for once, which I actually feel, genuinely proud about, that, it's my turn to take care of the family. And I think that's something that I want to make sure that I do every single day, that, they could, they should honestly enjoy their life instead of like worry about our tuition, because me and my brother, like, we aren't, extremely smart people who can earn, like, full scholarship in the US, and we also don't have in-state tuition. So it's obviously in the US is basically, if you have in-state tuition, it's like, pretty cheap. If you don't have in-state tuition, it's essentially like 75K. You can't run away from that. So to me, definitely, like, it was very surprising to them. Obviously, I didn't expect that I would be able to do so, but, at some point when our whole family just sat down and we were talking, they basically, opened up, and I also opened up, saying that, I'm willing to take on this role of making sure that my family is well taken care of, especially during this pandemic. And, obviously, my family now expands to the whole team in Koi, making sure that, I honestly, I think it's definitely a jump from this topic, but for everybody, especially the people in the Koi team, I never limit them to, just working in Koi. I feel like, being open about people who, are always hustling and making guides and everything, especially the people who work in Koi, the only thing that I teach them is, giving them my feedback on potentially their guides and everything, because at some point they're going to work at some place and people are going to see it. And if they're able to produce something that's amazing, then people will want them. I'm essentially trying to make sure that these guys, make sure that my whole team, they're seen in the public. They're going to be seen by all of these great, amazing groups, and people are going to hire them. And that's something that I'm proud about. Someone, these guys who are 16, 17 years old, who are learning every single day, asking questions, that at some point, they're going to be earning in this community. And that's the essence of this community, honestly. Like, you can actually make great money for the information that you provide. It's just how you deliver it to people. That's just kind of how I kind of teach my entire team. But yeah, I mean, back to the topic. Yeah, it's definitely really, really surprising in the very beginning, but I think it's such an amazing feeling, and I definitely feel like you probably feel the same way too.
Yeah, definitely. It's interesting. I think like my family obviously went through a lot when it came to my upbringing, and obviously now that I'm 18, my mum mainly speaks to me about the difficulties of they run their own business as well, and it's I don't know what the word is. It's pretty upsetting at some points because I just never knew about how dire these situations were, and to say where we are now, like this isn't a flex, this is just simple observations. Like it's crazy, it's absolutely crazy. Like my parents, my mum was born here, my dad migrated here from a different country, and like he's way ahead than the typical person in this country, and very proud of him. But at the same time, there is that element of me that relates to your point as well, that just I want to make as much money as I can. I want to basically give them a lump sum of money and just say, just put your feet up, forget everything, hand over the business to whoever, and just go live your life, really, because this is just one life.
Exactly.
It's crazy. Like there isn't. I think the main thing that kind of keeps me up at night mainly is that they've kind of dedicated their lives to upbringing myself and my siblings. And it's a very similar situation to you. And then what happens when we're done? Like, are they like? There's no payoff for them realistically. And that, and me personally, I want to create that payoff for them so they can just, go do what they want. If they want to move to Italy, if they want to move to Venice, if they want to go do something, if they want to go on holidays out of the blue, then they can do that. And I feel like if you have that connection with your parents, you'll innately just have that, because if you can combine that with entrepreneurial skills and that connection with your parents, everything just leads to that. That is pretty much the end goal. Obviously, success for yourself, obviously building your own family, if that's the way you want to go, but keeping your family on a good track financially and keeping connected to them is definitely something that a lot of people do want to do.
Right, exactly. If you don't mind me saying, I do feel like talking about family and talking about everything about this topic, I do want everyone to kind of know that, in this situation, it's been almost a year. Like you said in the very beginning, it's almost been a year for coronavirus. You just got to know that every single one of you guys are not alone. Like this community is always growing every single day. This community, the crazy part about this community is we're all working online. We're all still making money. So we just gotta keep grinding, and sooner or later, every single, like literally anyone can start a business. And that's the amazing thing that I see every single day when I see people creating new businesses every day, and I see new groups all of a sudden coming out and people reaching out on certain things that they want to create as well. And that's such an amazing thing to see people having the same or very similar mindset that you and I have, which is just to kind of work your way up there and making sure that they're taking care of either their family or just financially speaking, they're able to take care of themselves first. And I think that's very, very important.
Definitely, man. We covered a lot in this episode. And I feel like people are going to enjoy it. I think we just passed over the hour mark. We had a lot of stuff in here, and I hope people found value of this episode, because I personally did. There was a lot of elements we touched on, and I'm very, very glad that I brought you onto the TheBotTalk, because I feel like it was a beneficial episode. But to go ahead and wrap up today's episode, as advertised, you guys will have the opportunity to go ahead and join Quai Solutions. I'm going to cut to a clip of me explaining how that's all going to work. Please pay attention attentively, and then we will go ahead and commence the special event. Now that we've gone ahead and wrapped up today's episode, let's move on to the special event. Now guys, please pay attention to what I'm going to say. It's going to be very, very simple. So after this explanation clip, there's going to be a countdown. That countdown is going to hit 0, and a Discord invite is going to pop up on screen. You're going to join that Discord invite within the Discord server. You guys will be able to see 2 channels. Those 2 channels will be called lifetime and renewal. We are giving away lifetime copies and renewal copies. So there are 2 channels there. Depending on which one you want to go for, you click on the channel. Inside that channel, there will be instructions to get the checkout link so you can go ahead and check out. So if you click the lifetime channel, there's going to be instructions there to get the link. You can go to the link and check out the copy if you're fast enough. This is a very, very easy method. So I wish you guys the best of luck on this restock.